Hello and welcome to the Heaven Bound Podcast. My name is Jason Harden. I'm here with Roger Schaus, and we're opening the Bible in search of fuel for your spiritual journey. This is where we talk about life the way it was meant to be and what it means to be a disciple of Jesus in the 21st century. Wherever you are, thanks for joining us on the journey today.
We're glad to have you with us. This month, we are spending our time talking about our theme for the year, and we introduced that at the very first of this year, where we talked about the joy of the journey. And as we do each year, as we come up with a theme for the congregation, we then break it down by quarters. And so in our first podcast in this little series, we talked about the journey with the Lord. We do not journey alone. He doesn't just send us and say, I'll meet you on the other side. He leads, we follow. Our journey with the Lord. The second quarter of our theme this year is going to be our journey with each other, and the idea of fellowship, the encouragement and strength that we get from one another. Well, that leads us to our discussion today, and in our third quarter of the year, we're going to be talking about our journey through the world. And again, the idea that as we journey following the Lord, there are some hills and valleys and dark places that we got to go to, and we need to see how important that is. Peter would tell us in 1 Peter 5, verse 8, be of sober spirit, be on the alert. Your adversary, the devil, prowls about like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. This past summer, our family went to Gatlinburg. We stayed in an Airbnb. And it was a new place for us. And the place where we stayed, every day, sometimes twice a day, we'd see a mama bear and two or three of her little cubs. And at first, everyone's getting their cameras out and taking pictures. Real cool, isn't that, you know? But one day, the bear kind of tried to get up on one of the cars and knocked off a windshield wiper. Boy. And we had a bunch of little grandkids with us. And if you've ever traveled with little grandkids, you know they leave all kinds of food everywhere. And so every day it was cleaning the cars out, and it had to be an adult who first opened the door and looked out, because we didn't want the little ones to go out there not knowing. So imagine using Peter's words here in 1 Peter 5, verse 8, that we're walking through lion country. And there's lions about, and they're roaring, and they're looking for us. Well, you're going to be on your toes. You're going to be watchful. You're not going to be with your face in your cell phone just saying, well, you know, it'll be okay. You'll be careful of that. Well, that kind of carries us through this idea that we journey through the world. Yeah. The world is going a different direction than we are. In that great John 3 passage where God so loved the world, just verses after that, the Lord would remind us that the world loves darkness and not the light, and the world hates the light. And so that presents some unique responsibilities and challenges before us. And so that's where we're going today as we talk about the journey in the world.
Yeah. John 3 was on my mind, but also 1 John chapter 2, where John writes to disciples of all time, right? When he says in verse 14, don't love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world. And then he gives us this great summary. The desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. Roger, maybe a good question just from the very beginning. When John uses this phrase, the world, I don't get the sense that he's talking about the planet that we're on, right? It's not Earth as we revolve around the sun. So if someone were to ask you, what does he mean by the world? Or here we are talking about our journey through the world. What do we mean by that phrase?
Well, you know, and it's used, we have to kind of notice how it's balanced that way, because in John 3, God so loved the world, right, and yet in 1 John, love not the world. It seems like opposites. But when we think about John 3:16, God so loved the world, he's talking about the people. Mm-hmm. He's not talking about the plants and the animals and water and stuff like that. He's talking about people. But in 1 John, when he says love not the world, He's talking about the wrong choices, the influence, the darkness of the world. Don't love those things. Don't love wrong. Don't be infatuated with people who do crime and make heroes, as Proverbs says, those who love strong drink. Don't be doing that. That's loving the things that are wrong. Over in Revelation 6, and we're not going to get real concerned about all the imagery here. Some people get real excited about every little rock they see in Revelation. But I just want to get you an overall picture here as we read the first 4 verses. It says in Revelation 6, "Then I saw the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, as with a voice of thunder, 'Come.' I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer." It's my thoughts that this is probably Jesus. And Jesus on that white horse, wearing a crown, conquering people, not by destroying them, but by converting them to follow him. But immediately, verse 3, when he broke the second seal, I heard a second living creature say, "Come." And another, a red horse, went out, and to him who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth, and that men would slay one another, and a great sword was given to him. So where the gospel went opposition. You see that all through the book of Acts. You see in those first few pages, or in Jerusalem, and multitudes are being baptized. But immediately there rises up persecution. We see them spreading out just a little bit. But what happens? There's persecution. In Acts 16, we find the Apostle Paul as he converts the Philippian jailer. Well, they're not in the coffee shop. Paul is in prison after he's been beaten for preaching the gospel. So where the gospel went opposition. And that follows all the way through Peter, it follows through John, it follows through all the way to the book of Revelation, and even to today. So one of the challenges of the journey we have in the world today is that we are going one direction, and the world, its culture, is going a second direction, a different direction. And so that presents challenges. It presents spatial challenges to parents, challenges to every young disciple, every old disciple, about who am I following and who do I listen to in this world today?
Yeah, we even have a phrase in English that I think is relevant here, right? We talk about someone's world view. And what we mean by that is their perspective, their way of looking at the world, their way of valuing different things in the world, how they navigate their way through the world. Well, the Bible, in no uncertain terms, talks in these sorts of basic terms, right? That you mentioned John chapter 3 earlier. We could go all the way back to John chapter 1, where there is this contrast between light and darkness, right? The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And yet, as Jesus steps on the scene, there are some who prefer the darkness rather than the light. The light exposes, it shines on deeds and perspective and things that we would rather have hidden. As we navigate our way through the world, our world view matters a great deal. Are we taking God into account? Are we living simply for the here and now? That matters where we were in 1 John chapter 2, right? When John tells us in verse 17, the world is passing away along with its desires. And so what we're being coached to do is, on this journey through the world, a different view, a different mindset, unashamedly stepping into the light, because that is where God is, and that is where Jesus is seeking to lead us.
So let's just really get real specific and practical here for our listeners. So Jason, what would be some of the challenges for a disciple today as he thinks about journeying with Christ through the world?
Yeah. You know, my mind naturally goes back to where we were on Sunday when we were talking about the way, and about how when I walk in the light as God is in the light, there's naturally going to be a separation that occurs between those who are on the way and those who are not. We spent some time back in Ephesians chapter 4, right around verse 17 and beyond, where Paul talks about some who are drowning in the futility of their minds. They are darkened in their understanding. They're alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to their hardness of hearts. They've become callous. They've given themselves up to sensuality. They're greedy to practice every kind of impurity. One of the big challenges is, I live around people who are in that spiritual state, right? I work with people perhaps in the workplace who have this sort of a heart, this sort of a mindset. When I go to Little League baseball games and watch my children or my grandchildren, I'm surrounded, especially if I go to professional sporting events. I might just be absolutely surrounded by people who have callous and dark and hurtful ways of looking at the world. I think one of the challenges is, how do I stay on the way? How do I walk in the light when I'm surrounded by people who are darkened in their understanding and alienated from the life of God?
And that has to be a choice you make. You know, it's not going to come natural. I remember when I was young, back in the days of Abraham Lincoln, a long time ago, but in middle school and high school, the thing guys did to be cool was to start smoking. That was a sign that you were cool. You would smoke. That doesn't happen today. What it is very, very profane and offensive language. It's coming everywhere. It's in the music. It's in the movies. It's coming from politicians. It's just everywhere. I hear it from young people. I hear it from old people. Just a choice of using bad language. And what happens is you hear it you hear it all the time. You hear it at school, at the workplace, and everywhere. And pretty soon you just become numb to that. And it doesn't offend you anymore. And then the next step, if you're not careful, you start saying those words when you're upset. And that's how the world gets us. And so we have to do the opposite. We have to remain bothered by certain things and realize these things are not right. People should not, I don't care who they are, they should not talk in that way. It's not right to do that. And so that's how we have to stay this way, to be pure in this impure world. When it comes to going to formals or having weddings, the designers, the wedding dresses that are sold today, you may have to make some alterations to them because they're just not modest. Well, that's our world today. That's our culture today. It sees nothing wrong with that. God's people will. And so as we think about journeying through this world, it is some everyday practical things, such as how am I talking? How am I thinking? How am I dressing? All of those things becomes a challenge because what the world puts before us is a direction that's away from Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and as we go, we may know what is right. We may be determined to stay on that way that is right. But we can easily get discouraged along the way. Roger, I remember not long after I had moved here, you preached a sermon. You had chapter 18 on one side of an opening and chapter 19 on the other. And of course, what you were talking about was Elijah in 1 Kings, right? How I can have great determination. I can be really convicted to stand on the side that is right and experience chapter 18 sort of days. But as we make our way through the world, it can be challenging at times. We can convince ourselves, I'm the only one who cares. I'm the only one who has any awareness. You announced on Wednesday that even this Sunday morning, you're going to spend some time looking at an episode in the life of David where, all right, how do you maintain that joy when you're in the cave of discouragement? I think that's one challenge as we make our way through this world.
It is. And I think another challenge is continuing to be a servant as God wants us to in a world that's very selfish.
Yeah.
I will do something for you, but what am I going to get out of it? That's the way the world thinks. Or why should I help you? Well, there's no upside benefit to me. When Jesus washed the feet of those 12 apostles, there was no upside benefit to him. I mean, he wasn't doing this so later on they would do something for him. He did it because it was the right thing to do. He did it to show them this is what a servant does. This is the idea of helping one another. And so from that, we have to become that way. And so again, the challenge in walking through the lion country, or the challenge of being in this world today, is all around us are people who are wanting to take things. We have to be one who is giving things. We have to be different than the world. And that again is a challenge. It's hard because the culture doesn't help you with that. The people around us doesn't help us with this. This is why we need the people of God to remind us and to encourage us. This is why we need the Bible in our life to show us this is the way, this is the journey that God wants us on.
Yeah. Let me throw one more out, and then, of course, any others that you have that you want to add to the conversation. I think one of the real challenges as we make our way through the world, there are going to be times when people disappoint us, when people hurt us. As odd as it sounds to say, I am thankful that we have those vulnerable times in the scriptures. I think of Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 4, where he names some names of people who had forsaken him, who had disappointed him, who had done him great harm. But then he goes on to say, even when at my first defense, no one came to stand by me. They all deserted me. But he writes in 2 Timothy 4:17, the Lord stood by me and strengthened me. And the reason I think this is relevant in this conversation, we started in part 1 of this little 4 or 5 part series. We're starting in the first quarter of the year here at Charlestown Road with Bedrock. This journey is first and foremost with the Lord. And we've got to get that straight and solid in our minds. If we're not journeying with the Lord as we go through the world, we're going to have trouble. If we're not journeying with the Lord as we deal with human relationships, we're going to get easily discouraged, disillusioned. We're going to be much more prone just to throw in the towel and give up. And so even as we deal with difficult people, difficult circumstances, I think we've got to keep building block number 1 in mind. This journey is with the Lord.
And then number 2 is just as important, and that is we journey with each other.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of discouragement comes about, because like Elijah hiding in that cave, I feel like I'm the last one. I'm the only one who cares. I'm the only one who's doing things, and I'm just getting tired. And that leads to wanting to quit. And God reminded Elijah that there were thousands who had not bowed the knees to the idols.
Yeah.
And so that journey with each other also helps us. We need to be encouraged. The world will not encourage you in the right direction. The world will not build you up in a spiritual way. That's why through the Lord and through each other, we have that. And so when we think about this journey through the world, it is dark. It is hard. But the Lord knows we can make it. We make it because He's right there with us, and we're following Him. He is never saying, I'll meet you on the other side. He never says that, good luck, guys. Hope you make it. He's with us. And how many wonderful practical illustrations we get that. A storm in the boat, and the disciples are afraid. And what happens? There's Jesus. A man whose 12-year-old daughter is on the brink of dying. He's desperate. There's Jesus. Over and over, when we see these dark periods of time, there is the Lord. He does not leave us alone. And that helps us to get through these journeys. That's why praying is so important. That's why building your faith is so important. I think also we just need to layer this also by saying that when we think about journeying through the world, it takes faith. Mm-hmm. And, this is something that sometimes a young disciple forgets about. It's not just a step. It's a day in, it's a day out. It's an every single day. If anyone can start a marathon, I can start a marathon. I mean, that's easy, but can you make it to the first mile? Can you make it to the very end of the race? You see, that's a different story. And so easy to start with Jesus, but then you're going to have all these things thrown at you, and how easy it is just to cave in and give up and quit. But it takes faith to get up every day and say, I'm going to be a disciple of Jesus. When I head to school today, I'm going to be a disciple of Jesus. I'm taking this test, and I really don't know the answer to this question on the test, and I can easily look over on someone else's paper, but that's not right. That's called cheating. I'm not going to do that. I'm at work, and how easy it is to fudge some numbers to make the boss happy, but that's not right. So I'm not going to do that. How easy it is just to run through a stop sign because I don't feel like stopping. Well, that's not the right thing to do. How easy it is in tax time to cheat on, and the doing wrong is easy. It takes faith to do what's right. And so one of the great challenges of walking through this world today is doing the right thing day in and day out. Every single day, not just a Sunday thing, but an everyday thing. And so we see that through the Bible. We see that they were praying daily. We see that they were teaching daily. You follow that word daily through the New Testament, and you see a whole list of things that they were doing. Encourage one another, Hebrews chapter 3, day by day, while we still call it today. There's that idea of a daily faith, that journey with the Lord.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things about this whole conversation is we've got an entire year, right? Lord willing, to continue to build that faith that we need. We've got an entire quarter, Lord willing, July, August, September of this year, where we'll just, in a wide variety of ways, Bible classes, sermons, talk about this journey through the world. It's one of the great ways that here in the life of our church family, we continue to develop that faith that we need. And so, Roger, really appreciate you joining me for the first 3 parts of this joy of the journey. Number 1, if you missed it, our journey with the Lord. Number 2, last Friday, our journey with each other. Today, our journey through the world. Lord willing, next Friday, we'll talk a little bit about our journey home. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks to all of you for listening to the Heaven Bound podcast. We hope it has helped you set your mind on things above and given you a little more fuel for this journey. Always remember, when you're walking with Jesus, you're heaven bound, and the best is yet to come.